last day of fasting. It also means we go slow on the Ashraf Garda show because it's the last day of the show. The plan has always been the show starts on day one of Ramadan and ends on the last day of Ramadan. And today being the last day, well, that's it for the show. So, the show has my name, but it's not just me. There's a whole team of different people. So we've got Ponti Moletsani, Ziad Miladzi, and Rahima Bumberg. And those three people, together with myself, collectively makes up this team. So I thought, what we'll do as we wrap up, let's go back to Ponti and ask him, how did all this come about? Because, I'm here and Rahima's here. Ziad's normally been here, but we're here because of you. What happened?
So in Ramadan, here at Salam Media, we always want to do stuff, things a little bit different. We always want to, bring attention to the station. We know that many people listens to your Islamic radio station. We know that many Muslims, even though one will not listen to your Muslim content throughout the year, but in Ramadan you'll want to just go back and whether it is through YouTube and through Islamic media stations. So this is how this came about. And I remember 2 years ago we called on you and you did brilliant job there. So this year, this time around, it was no different. We've decided that, let us go and, try and amplify our station and call on you to come and do the Ashraf Garda show.
And the big difference between this year and last time, 2 years ago, is that time it was the afternoon?
Last time it was the afternoon,
was the morning.
right? And we had VOC as one of our partner radio station. This time around, I think it was more on a very bigger, much scale, right? We've got Al Ansar and One Nation FM and partly VOC there. And I think the team has done a really superb job. And we've called, this time around, we've got Rahima Bumberg to help us produce. And I think it made a major difference. Unlike last time when you were just running solo on air, this time around, I'm sure the listeners will be a testament.
Give us the inside. I think Rahima has been. So Ziad helps from the technical side or provides technical assistance. Rahima provides content assistance, and she's here very virtually in connection with me as I'm on air all the time. And of course, you yourself provide content and advisory service. But perhaps give the listener and the viewer an insight into how we come about with delivering content every day. What's happening?
So every day, in fact, I think a month, a few weeks before the start of Ramadan, you and I have been in constant conversations, meetings, online, to try, and all this was in the best interest of a listener, right? And then the team joined us, and so every day we'll have a briefing meeting at 4 o'clock, and because we cannot meet, and all of us have got different responsibilities, different families, so we meet on WhatsApp, and then this meeting will actively take about 1 hour, and it most of the time it even goes beyond 5 o'clock mark, and even in the evening, where there'll be 2 and 4, and every one of us contributing. That's yourself, Rahima, and myself contributing and trying to come up with a content that strikes the nerve. And I think that has been our thing with the Ashraf Garda show. We've always wanted, strive very hard to come up with content that strike that nerve. And so during our meeting, we'll discuss some of the stories, just to make sure that whatever we put out on air is matters and is relevant and to our listenership.
So I can just say from my side, we meet via WhatsApp at 4 o'clock every afternoon. We chat supposedly for half an hour. It goes on to 1 hour time, sometimes 15 minutes later. Sometimes it does, because it's a breakfast show. We have to crack it in the morning. Sometimes in between Taraweeh, between the 2 and 4 rakats, I'm replying to Ponti and Rahima to say this is what, and Ziad is what we're doing. And sometimes we've even had discussions, I think the first day, even as late as 11 o'clock at night. I remember that. And often we pick up the conversation at suhoor, like so after Fajr, 5:15, 5:30, in Johannesburg time, right? But therefore, how important then has in your team has Rahima been to putting this all together? We're going to get her to talk just now.
Sure. um, Very important, very crucial role. Raima is playing there. She contributes content-wise. Rahima is by profession a researcher by profession, so it was not really difficult for her to to gel in with the team because production, being a producer, is basically being a researcher. Raima will then research and come up with stories that she thinks would be of relevance and of importance to our listenership, and then draw up a program, a supposed program at the time that when we meet at 4 o'clock. And moreover, she has been playing the on-air role, and that of keeping check, keeping you posted, you and the listeners posted as far as the social media is concerned. Reading the WhatsApp messages, making sure that the show remains intact with a listener,
which has been great. But I mean, more than that, I mean, she's been the sounding box in terms of creative ideas before, and then the sounding box when I'm on it, because as a presenter, I need to bounce off people like, well, you and Rahima all the time. Like,
sure.
People don't realize just how much effort goes into a show. But anyway, enough of me talking or you talking about Rahima. Let's get Rahima to talk about Rahima.
Assalamu alaikum once again, listeners. Thank you, Ashraf. It's been, I tweeted earlier on, quite a roller coaster, but a definite pleasure working with all of you. Thank you so much, Jazakallah. It's been a very blessed, interesting, educational month for me. And I think to the listeners, we've really enjoyed having them contribute and having them bounce ideas, like you mentioned, onto us, because ultimately I think the whole point of not just the Ashraf Garda show, but Salam Media as a broadcaster, is to provide a voice and representation of the Muslim communities and other communities at large. And I think that I would like to think that we kind of hit the brief on that one.
And why are you here? I mean, like when you came here, nobody forced you to come here. There's a reason you came. It's not your full-time job. I mean, you came for the month, right? Why are you here? What fired you up to say, I'll be here?
Well, apart from you, Ashraf, I think that my role, or at least my experience in the work that I've done, so separate to being an anthropologist, which would then essentially, kind of be articulated through researching and writing. I think radio and media is a great way in which we can provide people narratives, provide stories about people, about relevant issues in the world, in our community, and in some way positively contribute to social change, a better culture of empathy, a better culture of acceptance, which can only come through understanding. And within a globalized space, ultimately, I think we should be using the resources we have of connectedness. So being able to connect on social media, whether it's through the broadcasting station, whether it's through actual social media, by creating these conversations and providing a platform for people to really explore relevant yet controversial issues nonetheless.
But I mean, the point is, I mean, you're researchers and anthropologists, so you understand that part of just human behavior, but you've never been a media person before in the proper sense. So there was a certain expectation going in or coming into this space, and now you know certain things that you're getting out, I think, right? What was your expectation, and what did you learn?
My expectation was to learn. And I think that Salam Media definitely provided me that, especially the people in this room. So thank you very much for that. I think my expectation was to learn. My expectation was to also be made aware of what are the nuances and the relevant issues within our communities and within the specific listenership. And I was exposed to a lot more than I was before getting into the media space.
And is there one thing that sticks out for you in terms of learning, lessons? I mean, there are many, I understand, but like just one thing, like, okay, that's the big takeout.
Sure, that's a very difficult question, but then again, you're known for asking difficult questions, Ashraf. Apart from, the actual methodology of how production works and being in media, and being close to, let's say, thought leaders, provoking people who provoke conversations, having spoken to people like Tuli Madunsela, having spoken to various other leaders. I think for me, one of the big takeaways I've come to find is how much people and communities have the power over the narrative,
Yeah, yeah.
and
yeah.
what information is shared, how it's received, how it's perceived, and then how it's responded to. For me, I guess as an anthropologist, you kind of always know that, right? Because everything on some level is a social construct. At least we're taught to question such things. But in this way, in this experience, I think that has definitely stood out for me, is that there's so much politics when it comes to information.
Absolutely. And the future for you in media?
Yes, I do think so. I definitely
We want to
think
see
so.
what, when, where,
It's funny.
what.
Well, it's funny just because when I was younger, people used to say that I'm 7 and I have a mouth of a 40-year-old. And I guess in more ways than one, people always assumed I'd find my way. And I guess I kind of did. So
and maybe this is the journey. So you never know what happens next with Rahima Boomberg. Let me bring in Ziad Milati. Now, Ziad's been along at Salam Media for a while. I've certainly connected with him. He's the guy where I tell you what, if he, at the end of the day, we can get the content right and the presenter right. If we don't have the technical aspect right, there is no show. You will not. It'll be like this. Yeah.
Sure.
Silence.
You won't hear us.
Silence. Complete silence.
Just let's keep them silent so they know what silence really means when the technical things go wrong. So here's it, like 10 seconds of absolute zilch.
I'm not around.
Okay.
What about you? I mean, what has been your experience like this?
With this show, I've really learned a lot, right? I remember we once had a show with you back in 2019. I wasn't that much actively involved in the afternoon show. One of my colleagues, former colleagues actually, which is Shazia, she actually left. She was the one that handled the show technically.
Yeah.
And I think I was a bit new by that time. And I always wanted to be actively involved in your show, making sure that we give what's right for the listeners, what they want. And so this time around, since I'm the main man, it gives me a great honor, working with you, Ashraf.
Well, it's been good. It's been good to connect with you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what did you learn? I mean, technical parts, of course. You teach us. We don't know, right?
Yes.
But you work with different people, different presenters, different shows, different styles, right? Every show has got a different mood, if I can call it that. Okay, so it's almost like for people to understand it, there is a difference even when you perform salah between performing 2 rakats or 4 rakats of Dhuhr salah, which is all quiet, and performing 2 rakats of Jummah salah, which is not quiet. So there is a difference, right? So what have you picked up from the show?
Well, there's much that I picked up, especially in terms of production, because at the moment, I'm a technical producer, but slowly I'm transitioning into becoming a content producer. As you know that next week, Monday, Julie Ali is taking over, and I'm going to be the executive producer of the show. So with this team, I've learned a lot, getting relevant guests, content, giving what the listeners want, and sometimes you put on stories, and at some point you need to get a right of reply to another takeover, or rather party, of which is very important. So that's one of the things that I've learned on the show.
Well, there you are. So we're gonna get Pontius, the CEO, to talk about Julie Ali. But anyway, Ziad's like the aspiring president. Before we get to Julie Ali, right? Sure. Are we going to meet again? Are we going to meet on air again, Ponti?
The paths always cross. We'll definitely cross. We'll definitely meet again. I'm sure we will. Inshallah. But we'll talk after this program. We really want to do something in the near future. Inshallah.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Before we get to Julie, then let me just say this.
Before on Julie, I just wanted to comment that Ziad is not your ordinary technical producer. You've got a brilliant mind of content as well, right? I've worked at High FM, I've worked at 702. I've seen how technical producers behave, and I've how they go about their normal working, the normal workings. But and I've seen how many of them are stereotyped into just pressing the button, just being a button pusher. But Ziad is beyond just a button pusher. So he's really good. In fact, I thought I'll announce this.
Okay, go ahead.
So you just mentioned there that he is going to be the executive producer of Julie Ali show that is going to be starting next week Mondays. It's going to be on Mondays, 2 Wednesdays, and he's been promoted into taking care of.
Okay, so basically, let's confirm this on Monday. So today's my last day. Yes, I'm gone. Right.
Sure.
On Monday, Julie Ali takes over that show.
A totally new voice in the morning. This will be the very first time that Auntie Julie, a veteran in her own right of the media, a veteran broadcaster in her own right, with experience spanning over 20 years. She has tackled many issues, from the beggars at, I think you worked with her at The Voice. Was it The Voice?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yes.
The community radio. Yeah, when I started going on air, she was already this veteran. I mean, maybe veteran is the wrong word. She was already someone who's like, wow. Because Julie Ali was on, I think it was not even called Lotus FM. What was it called before? There was there was this like an Indian station.
Right.
I just, if somebody knows, they're going to remind me of the name, right?
Wow.
But she worked there. She did things like 20 years ahead of all of us.
Wow. No, she is. So that is why we have, approached her to do
Radio Churro, by the way. That's the name. Yeah.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah. So she's going to be doing Mondays to Wednesdays, and Inaitwadi will be doing Thursdays and Fridays of the show. So the show is going to be called News and Views with Julie Ali, Mondays to Wednesdays, and with Inaitwadi, Thursdays and Fridays.
Okay, so there you are. That leaves me simply to give my final word, right? Look, it's been wonderful being here. I think it's a way of my form of ibadah. You don't realize there's different ways of ibadah. One is the literal performing of salah for yourself. The other is you can use Ramadan to communicate with other people. And in that case, it is a form of ibadah because you're passing through messages. You're asking questions on behalf of people. I think I've done it, and I think we've done it as a collective. For me, so I'm rather mukh, I must say that. Because the times were strenuous. I mean, typically for me, it meant waking up for suhoor at like 4 o'clock-ish, and then 5:15 for make fajr, and then staying awake all the time, and then showering on the point at 6:30, so I can get to studios at 7:15 every day, right? Which I did. Then we're done. Then we have a half an hour briefing, sometimes even 1 hour. So we begin like at 11 o'clock, right? And then we talk at 4 o'clock, and then it means for people to know this, I then go for Tarawih after iftar, etc. And it means the prep for what we decided at 4 o'clock. The prep for that, I would start at about 10:30, sometimes even as late as 11 o'clock, and stop at midnight and then wake up at 4. And then I did that throughout the month. So am I mukh? I'm absolutely mukh. Am I happy I'm here? It's been a thrill. It's been wonderful to connect on air with the listeners, with the different strands, One Nation FM, the guys from Cape Al Ansar, and then of course Voice of the Cape as well. Some chats with all of them, right? But also wonderful being part of you guys. So from my side,
will you do it again?
Well, when you ask, like you said, we'll have the chat off. Some things are off air, not on air. Right? But look, Allah ultimately decides. And there's one takeout that I've heard from the many champion chats we had with India's Suleiman, right? All the goodness that we do is not by us. It's through us. It's by Allah. I think we need to be humble enough to understand that the goodness comes by Allah. And then through us, inshallah.
So and you asked Rahima and Ziad what you've learned. I would say personally what I've learned is that you are a very punctual person. Never in a single day have we had a program or have I received a call from Ziad and to tell me that Ashraf is running late. And I really appreciate that about it. It's a very good quality, especially when you are a broadcaster, right? And
I must say, I'm when it comes to this type of thing, I'm extremely so. So for me, that what happened, yes, I haven't been late one day. It's absolutely normal.
Sure. And another quality that I really appreciate is, or have learned is that you always say we have to, when you are on air, when you are behind the mic, one has to represent a listener.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of holding people to account, even though they are friends to you, even though the person is a fellow Muslim, whether a presenter is in a belief system with a person or not, that doesn't really count the moment the red light goes on.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, I mean, here's the bottom line. Why am I here? Why am I here as a talk show host? I'm here because I ask questions that people can't ask themselves. So I ask their question, and that if we lose track of that, then we're not in the right place. Okay.
In my experience, you're working at in a radio station environment, especially in a Muslim radio station. I've seen and I've heard, and I've got the experience of all the radio stations in South Africa, Muslim radio stations in South Africa. I've heard how presenters go behind the mic and simply do PR. And seriously, I think that's one thing that should change. We should learn from people like yourself. We should learn from our counterparts at the likes of 702. Have worked there. I know the quality that is there. So it's something that Muslim broadcasters should really learn.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, they're saying wrap up. We're talking too much, and this is another thing. There's like time's always a dead end. So my final word is to wish people well over Eid. But this could be even watched after Eid. So if you're watching it after Eid, I hope you had a splendid Eid. If it's before Eid, to you as well and to your family. And my perfect Eid is the synergy between what I do in my family and the synergy between myself, my family, and my country, and the synergy between myself, my family, my country, and the global world around the sense of humanity. Because we talk about peace, but justice comes before peace. And the master of social justice in our world is Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because there's nothing else. He was described in the Quran as Rahmatul lil Alameen, a mercy unto the worlds. Now that is an incredible sunnah that Allah has bestowed upon him to say he's the mercy unto the world. So the challenge to us as Muslims, amongst the hundreds of other sunnahs that we can follow, many sunnahs, what about the sunnah? Can you and I be a mercy unto the worlds? Okay. That's the one I'll leave you with. And the other one, I will say this, everything I do, I'm driven by what I do at Champion South Africa, with our bottom line to move South Africa, build us from a mid-table nation to a champion nation. And we do that by touching on the nerve of getting people to become champions at what they do. So my last thought, and this is my last words to people watching us, to people listening, champion people.
Before you even
wait. This is it. Champion people build champion nations.
All right, cool. Before you even close, quick question to you, Ashraf. Who is the most important party between the presenter, the guest, and the caller?
He's learned his homework. Always the listener.
There you have it, guys.
You are the most important. It's all about you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah,
Until whenever, inshallah.